Good afternoon. It is exactly 1 o'clock on the 20th day of November 2013, just in time for KTN News Desk, where news is brought to you as it happens. My name is Bonny, Tunya. We have a lot in store for you, but first, let's take a look at the highlights. State Parties meeting, ICC State Party meeting kicks off today with Will Kenya's plea be granted? Kagumo child trafficker, now suspected child trafficker, narrowly escapes death as angry neighbors torch house. And finally, cracking the whip, police snap over 50 unroadworthy vehicles in the Kitale crackdown. Welcome to the program. The Assembly of State Parties to the Rome Statute started earlier today at the International Criminal Court. The conference, which will run for the next 8 days, will, among other issues, seek to a way forward in the case against President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy, William Ruto. Now, the signatories to the statute will discuss proposed amendments, including one by the African states seeking immunity for sitting heads of states and their deputies. They will also be seeking to have President Kenyatta attend his upcoming trial proceedings via video link. This comes after the United Nations Security Council shot down a resolution by the African Union to have Kenyatta and Ruto's ICC cases suspended. The AU has expressed optimism that the amendment will garner a 2/3 majority support at the state assembly parties. But to help us understand exactly what is happening, we now join live from Parliament buildings by senior reporter Rita Tinina, who will paint a clearer picture of exactly the events today and how they will impact Kenya's presence at the ICC. Good afternoon, Rita.
Well, good afternoon to you, Bonny, from Parliament buildings, where members of Parliament may this afternoon discuss a special motion, or if you like, an emergency motion touching on the ICC cases before The Hague in relation to one of Kenya's development partners, that is the United Kingdom, and the ongoing state parties meeting in The Hague. The background to this, Bonny, is that yesterday the Defense and Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Ndung'u Githinji said that he had information that Britain was planning to change the agenda of the state parties meeting in a manner that would disadvantage Kenya. And so, as is required of parliamentary procedure, he gave his request of a special motion to the Speaker. The Speaker assessed that request for issues of constitutionality and granted that request by Ndung'u Githinji. And so today what is required of Ndung'u Githinji is for him to come before the floor of the House and present his notice of motion. If it is approved, then members of Parliament will discuss that special motion or emergency motion, if you like. And the argument by the likes of Ndung'u Githinji, Bonny, like you mentioned earlier, there are several amendments before the state parties meeting. One of them is by Kenya seeking immunity from prosecution for sitting heads of state and government for genocide, war against humanity and I beg your pardon, genocide, war against humanity and war crimes. So Ndung'u Githinji is arguing that with two proposals, one by Kenya on immunity and the other one by the United Kingdom on video conferencing of the trials, he argues that both amendments touch on the same issue, that is the Kenyan cases. And so if more countries then choose to go with Britain, then Kenya may be disadvantaged. Remember, Article 112 of the Rome Statute states that decisions at the conference of the Assembly of State Parties will be reached by consensus. But if consensus cannot be reached, then a 2/3 majority will be required for any amendment to sail through. Kenya is sending a very high-powered delegation to that Assembly of State Parties meeting, led by, among others, Attorney General Githu Muigai. And before he left for the meeting, he was very optimistic that Kenya's amendment will sail through. Remember, the AU is backing Kenya, but the AU is not a party, is not a member individually to the state parties conferences. So individual countries sponsor amendments. So Kenya is sponsoring the amendment on immunity, backed by the AU, of course. Britain also sponsoring the amendment on the presence of
Rita, allow me to jump in. Rita, why has Parliament thought it as urgent to adjourn to deliberate on the ICC matter today?
Well, the argument by Ndungu Githinji is that Britain, which may turn out to be an unlikely ally for Kenya. Remember, Britain was one of the 8 countries that abstained at the UN Security Council meeting, thereby frustrating Kenya's request for a deferral of the cases against President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto. And so Ndungu Githinji, in fact, ordinarily Parliament does not discuss issues to do with its development partners. But yesterday, the Speaker granting Ndungu's request was a one-off. And so this afternoon, we'll wait to hear what exactly Ndungu Githinji, what issues he has with Britain and the status of the Kenyan cases before the International Criminal Court. So this is indeed a first for Parliament, where members of Parliament will be sitting to discuss the conduct of its development partners. Bonny.
And Rita, as an FYI, what powers does Parliament have in order to push the immunity agenda at the ICC at all?
Well, Parliament from here in Kenya, basically no powers at all. The issue is how the Kenyan delegation that has gone to the state parties meeting will managed to convince other parties, other countries that are members to the state parties conference, how well it will manage to convince them to back its amendment. Remember, it's a consensus issue here, but if consensus fails, then Kenya, out of the 122 countries that are state parties to the Rome Statute, remember, Kenya will need a 2/3 majority, but first they will try a consensus. If consensus fails, then they will have to vote, and Kenya will need to garner a 2/3 majority. Bonny.
All right, Rita Tunya, many thanks for bringing us to speed with what is happening at Parliament today. And of course, just on the backdrop of the state parties meeting of the ICC that is set to, amongst other things, look at Kenya's plea to have the trials for the President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto adjourned. We also have a proposal by the UK to have the two attend trial via video link. As and when that happens, and whatever decisions will be made will be brought to you via KTN as and when we receive it. Right, away from Hague matters, let's go elsewhere. And residents of Githema village in Kagumo torched a homestead of a man they claimed he is a witch doctor. The man escaped the village's attack by his house burnt down. His livestock were not spared either, as the irate villagers used machetes to attack the animals, leaving them injured. They accused the man of practicing witchcraft and child kidnapping.
Smoke still emanating from this house. Everything in the house burnt to ashes. Outside the house, livestock suffering from cuts and attacks. They are lucky to be alive. On the farm, massive crop destruction. Villagers did not spare anything in this home in Githema village in Kigumo district of Murang'a County, belonging to a 72-year-old man whom they believe to be a witch doctor. Residents claim a 6-year-old girl from the village who went missing last week was found locked in a suitcase in the man's house. They added that they raided the man's house as they suspected he could also be involved in child trafficking. Angry residents claimed this was not the first incident. Early this month, another girl went missing for 2 days and was later found in the same house. Kigumo OCPD John Katumo said the man is in police custody as investigations over the matter are currently underway. Angel Katusia, KTN.
Now, you might be paying taxes for your pets if you live in Uasin Gishu. Individuals rearing pets in Uasin Gishu County will be required to pay 500 shillings annually for a dog or a cat, while those who keep snakes will have to pay 1,500 shillings per year. These are among the raft of proposals contained in the Uasin Gishu County Finance Bill 2013 that was passed by the County Assembly. The Uasin Gishu County Assembly further repealed a controversial proposal to tax farmers for animal rearing and crop farming after the proposal came under massive opposition from area residents. Now, the repealed article had proposed to tax every farmer 2,000 shillings for rearing cattle and a further 2,000 shillings for a year for planting maize, wheat and other crops. Meanwhile, individuals who may want to use the Kipchoge Stadium for public and political functions will have to part with 120,000 shillings, while those hosting sporting events will be required to pay 50,000 shillings.
I have said about weddings, church functions, political rallies, these are public functions which we are saying for anyone to be able to hold such important functions, then definitely we have put some very reasonable charges for permission to actually hold such functions. And why are we doing this? The county government will have to incur cost in providing and making sure that there is safety, they have the necessary facilities, and so on and so forth.
Next, we stop in Kitale, where more than 50 unroadworthy vehicles have been impounded by traffic police in Kitale. In an early morning crackdown led by Kitale Police Base Commander Justice Njeru, police intercepted vehicles operating without speed governors or defective seatbelts, among other traffic offences. Among the vehicles impounded were the Toyota Probox cars, which are no longer permitted to serve as public service vehicles. Njeru cautioned passengers not to board overloaded vehicles and urged drivers to obey all traffic rules in order to avoid accidents. Following the crackdown, more than 50 vehicles and drivers and passengers were arraigned in court and charged according to their offences. Now, police now say the crackdown will continue in Kitale and its environs as the December festive season approaches.
Let us adhere to the traffic rules. Let the drivers be sober. If somebody is tired, he has come from a wrong journey, maybe from Nairobi to this end, let the driver take a rest to avoid accident during this festival.
Where do we stop next? In Nyeri, and 3 residents of Mwega in Nyeri County have been arrested for allegations of growing bang. Kieni police said the 3 were arrested at 5 a.m. this morning after members of the public alerted authorities and reported the 3. Mary Wanja, who has allegedly been cultivating the illegal herb together with her son, pleaded with authorities to pardon her, but police did not listen to her. The other 2 suspects, Simon Mureithi and David Mwangi alias King David, are being held at the Mwega police station and will be arraigned in court tomorrow. The elderly Wanja, who appeared to pray fervently in Kikuyu, appeared to be in distress, but that did not stop the police officers at the scene from arresting her for the illegal activity.
Those who have not been caught today, the campaign and the operation still goes on. We are going to mount operations as we get information from the members of public, and sooner than later we are going to get to at least everybody within the area.
Now, there has been spirited debate whether we should legalize bang, and especially coming from Mwega. You let us know what you think, and the Twitter handle is at KTN NewsDesk. We'll be more than glad to engage with you in that. Let's stay in Nyeri, and activity outside the Woodley supermarket in Nyeri town came to a temporary standstill when one lady was caught red-handed trying to shoplift. The lady, Mary Nyawira, had carried 2 sachets of drinking chocolate under her armpits, with each sachet valued at 395 shillings. Mary's companion managed to get away before the supermarket security personnel pounced on them. To the surprise of many, Nyawira confessed to having thought of stealing a packet of flour, but later changed her mind due to its bulkiness and settled for less cumbersome Milo sachet. Woodley supermarket manager asked for 7,000 shillings fine for shoplifting. And so our county road trip ends in Nakuru County, where the government has finally constituted a complete government after 8 months of operation without a fully constituted executive committee. Earlier this morning, the county government sworn in 4 executive committee members, chairman for the County Public Service Board, and 8 chief officers. The county government was faced with challenges a few months ago after a list of nominees forwarded to the county assembly by the governor, Kinuthia Mbugua, were rejected. Mbugua was, however, called upon the new leaders to prioritize the needs of the region to ensure maximum use of available resources.
Appointed as executive.
Our people are in dire need of a lot of service. They need roads to access their farms, to access their homes. They need medical services. they need other social services so that we may alleviate poverty and improve on their well-being. And that is what should guide you every day as you wake up to do your work. And therefore, a lot of accountability, a lot of transparency in the way.
Health Cabinet Secretary James Macharia has allayed fears over the consequences of devolution within the health sector. Macharia assured health workers that none of them would lose their jobs once the sector is put under management of the county government, adding that all stakeholders will be consulted before the process takes place.
Within the next 2 to 3 days, you will see the results of good dialogue because we are engaging everybody, from Parliament to Senate to the unions, just to make sure that we do not have labor unrest in this sector. Because as you know, in other sectors, they can argue, as we can afford to argue because lives will be at risk. And therefore, we shall not take the chance of having even one day doctors and nurses going on strike.
Let's talk about winning now. In the last group of lucky winners of the Jicheki Nathao competition were awarded 100,000 shillings each as the competition takes a break. Now the 8 standard newspaper readers expressed their joy as they received their awards. The promotion that has been running for the last 45 days has seen dozens of lucky winners walk away with 100,000 shillings. For one the win in the Jicheki Nathao competition, he or she had to buy a copy of the standard newspaper, keep the newspaper and the serial number printed on the back. The winners were announced on KTN every Saturday at 6:25 p.m.
I'm a farmer. On a daily basis, I buy a newspaper. So on our normal daily activities, I've always seen this thing. So I've been patient, I've watched, and I've won. So I tend to use this money to expand my farm.
I'm very excited this evening. I'm also very grateful for this promotion to the Standard Group. I buy the Standard newspaper daily, and since the promotion started, I was always looking for the serial number printed on the back page of the paper until the time I won.
Edith around, it's kind of tough to give this detail of facts, but here is one that might not be so useful after all. An executive defeated Bill Gates 35 out of 37 in a video game. When they met again a month later, Gates won or tied every time. He had studied the game until he solved it. Right. Facts you don't need to know. My name is Bonny Tunya. Thank you for being part of the show.